Hello guys, and welcome back to the 2023-24 SDPN NHL season previews. Next up, we go on to Kirill Kaprizov's Minnesota Wild, a team that is in a weird spot with the cap and with how many casualties they had this offseason. Are they still a playoff team? Well, we're going to find out here. But before we get to the preview and all of the predictions, let's first talk about our sponsor today in Sports Interaction. Get in the action and make your bet with Sports Interaction. The MLB season is getting towards a close and every game counts. Bet before the game or live and in play for all your favorite teams. Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN or download the app to get started. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Now, this Minnesota Wild team is in a weird spot. After all these different years of mediocrity and okay playoff berths and just a okay team around them, they get players like Kirill Kaprizov, players like Jared Spurgeon, players like Philip Gustafsson, who are one of the best players in their respective positions, but they're kind of in the same spot, around that mediocre level. And even though they've made the playoffs a couple of times here, they haven't really pushed much past that. Now, when we look at the offseason and what they were able to acquire and lost, now when we look at the players they acquired, this is it. This is the only player of NHL substance that they got this offseason. They still have a little bit of cap space, so we'll see if they're able to do maybe something else, but a lot of depth was lost, and their main addition was Pat Maroon, who they traded for, 35 years old. We know what Pat Maroon is, okay? He's going to be on that fourth line. He's going to be an okay scorer, but not that much else. And that's your biggest addition. A little bit questionable for Minnesota's side, especially considering the offensive depth they've lost. Of course, Matt Dumba going to free agency. Still, nobody has signed him, which is definitely an interesting story, but you do lose the offense and the play that he's provided. You also lose John Klingberg, who is a defensive disaster, but offensively did still bring a lot for the Minnesota Wild. You also lose Gustav Nyquist, who they also acquired at the trade deadline. Wasn't able to play that much because of injuries right after, of course, but when he was playing with Minnesota was great there. You also lose Ryan Reeves going to Toronto and Sam Steele going to the Dallas Stars, who was pretty underrated last year, 28 points in 65 games. So although it's nobody that they're going to really hurt losing, it's a lot of guys that were solid for them and solid point producers, and a lot of that offensive play has been lost. But because of that, the players, especially in the forward group, the younger players, the veterans, are going to be relied upon a lot. When we go to the three players to watch here, the first one for me is one of the youngest players likely to be on the roster this next year in Marco Rossi. Turning 22 this September, 9th overall back in 2020. This is really the year for me that he really needs to come into the NHL and stick. Last year, he played 19 games, only getting 1 point, got some opportunity here and there, didn't look truly at home, but looked fantastic in the AHL again, was great at the World Championships, but there's no more excuses now. Now is the time for Marco Rossi to truly become something if he is going to become something, and if he does produce at a solid middle six rate, that is a huge addition for the Wild that they didn't have last year. Now, speaking of players they didn't have a lot last year that will kind of be additions, Marcus Johansson is my second player to watch. Another player the Wild acquired at the trade deadline, but was actually incredible. 18 points in 20 games after having 28 points in 60 games with the Caps. This is a player that if he continues that type of production, or even like 80% of that, will be a huge addition for the Wild for the entire season. Of course, being brought back to Minnesota after starting a little bit there, he's going to be in an interesting spot. I feel like with Johansson, if he's able to produce at that second line rate, that is an addition that the Wild really desperately needed. A little bit more depth, and that could really help them. Now on to my third player to watch, and we're actually going to go to the D here. And next up, I have young rookie Brock Faber, who is probably one of the more underrated rookies heading into this next rookie crop, which is just absolutely stacked. But he was drafted 45th overall back in 2020, still 20 years old, and he's a D that came onto the scene after being signed from University of Minnesota and was great for them. He didn't get any points in 8 total games with Minnesota last year, had 0 points, but defensively looked amazing and definitely could have gotten a few points here or there, just got a little bit unlucky. He's a player that could maybe be on that middle pair for Minnesota if he's able to rise above, but he's a player that's going to be a top 4 D for them for a very long time, a steady one at that, and I think this next year is going to be great to see out of him. Now let's go through and grade the forwards, defense, and goaltending. And first up, we got this forward group, which is probably the weakest part of this Minnesota Wild roster. You got some fantastic elite players like Kirill Kaprizov, Matthew Boldy's going to get better. Hopefully, Matt Zuccarello will show no signs of age like he has so far. And Joel Eriksson that just continues to get better and better. But there's also a little bit of weaknesses here. Ryan Hartman being your #1 offensive center is bad, just saying it right now. And maybe you have players like Marcus Johansson again play well, but that top 6 isn't exactly amazing outside Kaprizov, maybe Zuccarello, maybe Boldy, maybe Joel Eriksson, and the bottom 6 is okay too. You have some really solid options like Marcus Johansson. Gaudreau has shown some good offensive prowess, but besides that, it's not elite in my opinion. I give the forward group a B-. It's not going to blow you away, but hopefully it'll be steady throughout the year. Now going on to the defense, which could be the best part of this Minnesota Wild roster. When you look at it, it's not going to blow you away, but I think the team altogether really gets the job done, especially with players like Addison and Brock Faber coming into the scene and being great in their own right. You already got a great top 4D in Brodin and Spurgeon. Jacob Middleton continues to get better and better for them in a big role. I feel like this defense is pretty solid. Another team just like LA that's a little bit underrated. I give the defense an A-. It's not one of the best, top 5 maybe, but it's definitely one of their biggest strengths. And then you go into the goaltending, and it's amazing. I mean, Philip Gustafsson has shown some great things last year, was brilliant in the regular season and in the playoffs. He is quickly becoming one of the best goaltenders in the NHL. And Marc-Andre Fleury, even if he's not at that great level he once was at, he's still solid. Got a .908 save percentage last year and isn't offensive as a backup. In fact, pretty solid there. I'm going to give the goaltending an A. Probably the best part of this Wild team, and next year will probably be the biggest strength, as Gustafsson hopefully gets even better. But looking at this Minnesota Wild roster, the biggest question mark becomes, can this offense still compete? Can they still be at a good level? You got fantastic players like Kirill Kaprizov, of course, but will players like Matt Zuccarello age? Will players like Matt Dumba and Sam Steele being gone hurt them in the depth? Especially on the back end. I like a lot of the players, but they're a lot more defensive, like Jared Spurgeon, like Jonas Brodin, like Jacob Middleton. They aren't going to be producing on that offensive side. And to me, I think especially on the defensive side, there's a lot of offense that was kind of missed when you leave out a player like Dumba, when you leave out a player like John Klingberg. And to me, I think that offense and that consistency might be the biggest problem. Still though, I see them making the playoffs in the competitive Central Division. I see them getting around 96 to 99 points and finishing 3rd in the Central. That defense and goaltending being the biggest strength, and they're going to be one of the best defensive teams and one of the best teams in terms of goals against this next year, without a doubt. Unless something crazy happens, they're going to be one of the biggest stalwart teams out there this next. But let us know down below, with the depth the Wild have lost, are they still a playoff team in that Central Division? Let us know all your thoughts. Of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you haven't already for all the season previews as they come out. 32 teams in 32 days, and we hope to see you for every single one. Of course, share the video with all the hockey fans you guys know online, and we will see you in the next one. Drink some water, have a great day, and goodbye.